Hey, I'm so excited. I have Claire Miller with me today, and we're going to talk about self-defeating behavior. So I'm so excited for that topic, and I think it's like such a broad topic, but we're going to kind of like narrow it down a little bit, and how, if you're struggling with this, like how you can help it and what it even is. So to start out with, Claire, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Claire Miller. I live in Utah, and I started out learning about overcoming self-defeating behaviors many years ago. I was trained in college with it and taught it throughout the Western United States and in Hawaii. A self-defeating behavior is any behavior that limits you from being the best you that you can be. Some ideas of self-defeating behaviors can be inferiority feelings, compulsive eating, fear of people, perfectionism, depression, fear of failure, anything. I've had different people take the class for anything they feel like is holding them back. And so it's not something that we come up with on our own. Often we start a self-defeating behavior when just acting like ourselves doesn't seem to be filling the needs. That, for example, with depression, sometimes with depression, it's situational, and we need a change so bad, but don't see a way out of it, that we choose the depression, and we get depressed about things and how that works.
I know, Claire, like, I don't mean to interrupt, but like I've had that happen with me before when I've seen success, and then in my mind I'm like, oh, like that's not for me, like other successes for other people but not for me, and then I like self-sabotage it. Like, you know, is that kind of self-defeating behavior too?
Absolutely. Fear of success is as prevalent as fear of failure is. And we do that to ourselves. We set ourselves up for different things when just acting like our normal selves doesn't seem to be good enough. And so we go through and we talk about all of those things that we can do to turn that around. You know, there are hundreds and hundreds of programs out there to help with habits, to help with things that people do that are negative. And they always look at the outside of the doing part instead of looking on the inside of what we are doing moment by moment to put these behaviors forward. And so the program that I'm talking about is being able to work on ourselves with ourselves. And that becomes very, very powerful when the principles come in line.
Perfect. So how does somebody know if they have a self-defeating behavior they need to work on?
I think a couple of keys are feeling unhappy with their lives. Everybody kind of knows, you know, I shouldn't be doing this, or I shouldn't be in this situation, or you know, this is not really healthy for me. We all know that. In the back of our minds, our self-voice tells us that on a constant basis. We often tune ourselves out, but we know that those things. And so choosing to do a self-defeating behavior is just merely, we don't have the tools to turn it around. And that's what overcoming self-defeating behaviors is all about, is handing people the tools so they know how to dig out from where they are.
Cool. So what is, to I guess, break it down into a short synopsis, like what are the steps that you kind of go through as you work through a self-defeating behavior?
Well, first we talk about how we do self-defeating behaviors, because it's important that we know and examine exactly how those things take place. And then we talk about how we disown that. You know, who we blame. You know, it takes me back to years ago. There was a comedian named Flip Wilson, and he used to, his call thing was, that devil made me do it. You know, we blame all sorts of people for how we act. You know, if my husband, if my wife, if my daughter, if my everybody. And so we talk about how we disown the behavior so that we can accept full responsibility. Probably one of the most important steps is we talk about the prices we pay, how expensive our behavior is. For example, I had one gal who was working on compulsive eating. And so we mapped it out. How much was she spending compulsive eating? And she was horrified when she actually came face to face with the price. And then we have to ask, what is the cost? Is the cost worth it? And then we talk about what the rewards are if we don't do it. So we learn how to take our scale and balance it in a way that it becomes cost effective to live. And that's a real powerful part.
And I'm sure some of that cost is physical money, but some of it could be like costing in your health or costing in your relationships, you know, and like, are those costs you're willing to like have as well?
You'd be surprised. One of the turnaround pieces for a lot of people is the cost of time it's taking. So all of those, yes, all of those are prices, and we make a full price chain and look at it exactly. Then we talk about how choices activate our self-defeating behavior. What choices do we come up to make our self-defeating behavior, and what negative techniques we use to keep that self-defeating behavior continuing on. Then we talk about the fears. What happens if we let this self-defeating behavior go? One of the key ones that often people say is, well, how am I going to deal with my stress if I let self-defeating behavior go? I've had different people who are working on alcohol consumption talk about, this is how I release my stress for the day. What if I don't have this? What can I do in place of this? And so we really examine all of those things. And then we talk about facing the fears. Look at it head on. What can you do? And then we go through what I call a guided imagery, to where we can go through and prepare ourselves to face the fears we have and then live SDB free.
That's
And
awesome.
It's been kind of an exciting thing to see people. I've had people work on things like their fears, like fear of a sewing machine. Believe it or not, that was one. They were so afraid to try that because of some childhood experiences that they had. I've had people work on anger issues, panic, anxiety, depression, all sorts of either overeating or compulsive eating or not eating, all of those things, relational things. It's just anything that's keeping them from moving forward on their life path.
Now, if I realize like I have some of these self-DBs or self-defeating behaviors, can I work on them all at one time? Like,
excellent question. I have that. So when I teach a class, I usually have, I don't have enough paper to write this all down. Yeah, and I tell them time and time again, you know, a shotgun effect is not going to be of any value. We pick one, and it doesn't have to be your most critical one. Sometimes you may want to start out small to get the hang of the principles and then use those principles on others. What I'm teaching are life skills that they can use the rest of their lives on any kind. What I turn in to be is their life coach. I help them with the examination, and we do diary entries, or we can do logs or anything to help them examine their growth patterns. So that's kind of how that works.
And what would be, so if I had a small one I'm working on and I had a small time period versus a large one and a long time period, like what is the smallest versus like biggest that somebody would expect to have to work on one of these behaviors?
If you're just learning the principle, 8 weeks.
Okay.
And we work weekly for 8 weeks. That's where I would learn the principles. Then I'd go to the next behavior and say, okay, there's a rule that says 21 days makes a habit. But I find that it needs to be a lot longer than 21 days to really get into the mode of living SDB free. So I keep up with that for, I would say, 3 months for sure would help break the pattern to be able to help those people move on.
Perfect. So if I have a list, I need to like prioritize which ones I want to work on first and give it the amount of time it really needs to dedicate to that one and not just hurry up and skip to the next one without fully giving it the time it needs to work through it.
Well, it's a healing process. Just like our bodies need to heal, so do we need to heal with our emotions and our actions. We need to heal all those things. And that's what this earth life's all about, is learning to get better at what we're doing.
That's awesome. Perfect. So if you have somebody out there that's listening to this and they're struggling with these, or they're thinking, is this an SDB or is this not? Like, how do I know? Like, what advice would you give to them?
Is it something that's keeping you from being happy? Is it something that's keeping you from meeting your dreams? Is it something that's keeping you from having a relationship that you want to have? Is it something that's holding you back? So
Perfect.
that would be my advice.
So if any of those are yes, then they've got one they need to work on.
Well, I have yet to find anybody that doesn't. I mean, that's what this life is all about, is learning to adult.
Yes. And it's not just you do it and then you're done. Like, then you realize other things you need to work on. And then you're like, okay, here's another one in my life. I need to work on it, get through it. And that is true. It's adulting, it's learning, it's becoming wiser and learning as we grow. And then I think turning around and using what we learned to then help other people as well and giving back. Like, I love
exactly that. And that's the whole key. That's the last turnaround piece, is the giving back, helping others, because paying it forward is truly the top of the pinnacle of growth.
I love that. Perfect. Okay. So if somebody's listening and they're like, oh, I really want to work on this, or I want to learn more about Claire, I want to follow her, how would they follow you or get a hold of you to learn more?
Well, I'm going to be doing an SDB class starting in June. And the best one it's a Zoom class, and it's, I can give the details to you if you're interested. Find me at soleimprovement.plexus @gmail.com. Now, soul is SOLE improvement. Soul improvement, one word. soleimprovement.plexus, PLEXUS @gmail.com. And I'll give you all the details and we'll get you cooking.
Perfect. And I can put that link in the comments, that email in the comments as well, so that people can see it and see how to spell it. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing that with us. I love all of the things we can constantly do to our mind, body, and soul to just continually help us improve our bodies, to heal, be healthy, and then turn around and help others as well. So thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thanks.